Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Canadian-based veteran jazz singer Heather Ferguson. She opened up about her debut album, the 2022 CD Lush Life. She has been dubbed a jazz sensation by Monday Magazine, and her journey to music has been long and winding. These days, she is in Victoria, Canada, after many years in Toronto, and she is fast becoming known for her interpretations of the great songs of the 20th century. On this album, it is a showcase for her beautiful phrasing and remarkable gift for storytelling. Enjoy this interview.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you today?
Oh, I'm great, thanks. I'm just great. How are things down? What's the weather like? That's the first thing Canadians always ask. What's the weather like down there?
It's sunny. The Lush Life is a very sunny album, and I want to get into, before we get into your new album, I want to know, how did you survive COVID now that we're coming out of it? How did you do as an artist, and how does the process change you, the way that you approach music and live your life?
Oh, great question. Well, first of all, we actually here in British Columbia, our public health officer went through part of her experience was through the Ebola program. So Ebola in Africa, and so she had been through a near pandemic already, and so she really, I think that experience really helped make it a little easier on us here. So we had pretty significant restrictions. Everybody was masking and everything, but I was actually able, with restrictions, I was able to perform during COVID. Not a lot, but some, and I think that really helped. I had only started doing solo shows really about just over a year before the pandemic. I'd performed before many times, but only solo shows just about a year before that. So being able to continue on and do a few shows through the pandemic was really helpful for me, and I coming out of it, I really feel like I'm finding my groove. My shows are better. The band is better. It's we've had a chance to think about things a little more. It's actually helped in many ways.
So it must feel wonderful to have a new album out with the world opening up and live shows happening. What does this album mean overall?
First of all, these are songs I love to sing myself. And they feel good when I sing them. They feel good emotionally. They feel good for my voice too, which is always important, when you're choosing a song. But I also felt that if we could find a way to put a new skirt on it, if we could make it in some way our own, that doing an album of great 20th century songs would have some merit, and people would gravitate to that, would stream it or buy it. And so far that seems to be the case. So far that seems to be working out.
So what do you ultimately hope the listener gets from this? What's your ultimate hope for them?
My personal focus is to keep learning, to keep creating. And to be honest, I've got some shows coming up where we're doing the album, and I just love getting out and meeting the people in the audience. And somebody said to me actually after our album release, she said she came up to me after the show and she said, you really made us feel as if we were part of the performance. And I'll tell you, I don't think I've ever felt so good. That was exactly what I was hoping for. But moving forward, there's so many other aspects of jazz I want to work on. I'm thinking maybe the next album might be much more restrained, lesser known songs, much softer. But I'll still do the big ones. I've got the big voice. I love the exuberance of those songs, and even though many of them are quite sad, I think it's going to be just an incredible time going forward of just learning and creating, working on my scat, all kinds of stuff.
So talk to me a little bit about how this jazz journey began for you. How did the seeds of jazz and singing become who you are today?
I always loved music, and I was in choirs and all kinds of things. I always had, because of my voice, I always had the leads in the school musicals, which was fun. I never was really brought up to consider music to be a career, which I obviously know differently now. But so I went out and had another career, a different career in nonprofit. I actually was a nonprofit executive. But, I could never get away from it. Like, I could never, it just was always in the back of my mind. And then in the 90s, way back, I heard, for the first time, I heard Trudy Desmond, who's Paul Desmond's sister. She unfortunately has now passed away. I just watched her, and that's really when I got the bug. I just thought, that just feels fun. That just feels so natural. So I held it in my mind until I could see a portal, until I could see a way forward on this. And that was just over 10 years ago. So, and then it was just layers and layers and layers of music. I started singing again. And then I started working with jazz musicians and singing there. And then I thought, well, geez, I better learn to sing with a band. And so I did that. And then I thought, well, maybe I should be recording. So then we did that. And performing, and we did that. The world of jazz is so broad and so beautiful, and there's so many opportunities there that, honest to God, I just feel like I could be just adding layers and layers and layers forever. And I'm very excited about that.
What was the first live jazz show that you ever witnessed that made you think, wow, I'd love to do that someday?
It was this Trudy Desmond show in Toronto. She lived in Toronto and unfortunately passed away soon after. But she lived in Toronto, and I was living in Toronto. And in those days, I just wasn't able to see too much live music. But I did see her, and I've never forgotten it. It was really the genesis.
So I don't know if you know this, especially being from the nonprofit world, but I believe Paul Desmond. Okay, yeah, it was Paul Desmond. He didn't have any family with him when he passed, and he had the rights to take 5, but he was asked before he passed, where do you want the proceeds and the estate for this song to go to? And he picked the American Red Cross, and to this day, that is one of the biggest contributors to the global mission of American Red Cross year after year, is Paul Desmond dedicating that to the American Red Cross.
What a beautiful, beautiful story. Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
I did not know that. It is wild, but you know what? It's just it's a beautiful example of giving, and oh man, I'm gonna remember that. Thanks for telling me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, now that you're in a unique position because you lived another life and business, and now you're singing, and I'm curious, what is it that you like the best about being a singer, being in this professional musician mold that you're in? What do you look forward to the most?
I kind of look forward to all of it. I mean, I know that's sort of a wishy-washy answer. I'm sorry, but honestly, I do. I think one of the things I've been trying to do lately is just what you said, just thinking to myself, how is it that I can use the skills that I have and try and give back to my jazz. We have quite a strong jazz community here in Victoria, and just give back to my community, provide myself with some more, performance options. What can I do? And so I'm starting a jazz series in February. We'll run it until June, and then we'll assess. So it's a pilot project, but things like that. The opportunities are endless if you're just a bit creative about it.
Talk to me a little bit about what's coming up for you. We're ending 2022 right now. We're going into 2023. Hopefully times are better and better ahead, especially for musicians that had to hold back for so long. So what is your world looking like as things open up?
Well, I'm going to work on the jazz series. I want to work on some things, some personal things. I think I mentioned I want to work on my scat, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to work with Louise Rose on that. Which, I mean, the great Louise Rose. There's nobody can teach you better than that. Maybe Sheila Jordan, I'm told. But anyway, and just start to think about the new album. I want to do some more some performances around Lush Life. If I can do some touring around that, I would really like to do that. But for the moment, I think I've got some shows in the area. And I'm going to do those, and then I'm going to focus in on the jazz series, and then I'm going to start to think about this new album, the next album, how I want to frame it, what it's going to look like, and just really try and understand where the personal growth is coming from, that hopefully will translate out and be appreciated by an audience in the future.
So, very simply put, why do you love jazz?
I love the freedom to create. I also love the structure, interestingly enough. I love that tension between form and form and freedom. It makes me so happy. I think at the end of the day that tension between form and freedom is one of the most interesting parts about jazz. And when you look at the evolution of jazz, through swing, bebop, cool jazz, all of that, it's really all about the tension, that tension. And I think that's such a portal to creativity. It's just amazing.
So everyone has a perception of you, an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
No, I don't know, Joe. I'm just your average, ordinary diva.
I like it. That's wonderful. That's a bumper sticker right there.
Yeah, an ordinary diva. Yeah, well, thanks for that. I'll think about that. Maybe carry that through. Maybe I just came up with the title of the next album.
There you go. Absolutely. Comes from mysterious places. Heather, this has been wonderful. Thank you for opening up. Before we leave, I want to make sure that everybody out there that wants to either buy your album, find out about your next project, live shows, anything revolving around your world, where can they go?
They can go to my website. It's heatherferguson.ca. And it's Heather, and then Ferguson is Ferguson, and .ca is Canada. That's like .com, except we're in Canada, so .ca.
Wonderful. Heather, thank you again. Good luck with everything. I appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Joe, and thank you so much for giving me a call. It's been such a pleasure.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest singers in Victoria, Toronto, Kansas City, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Heather for her time, energy, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to the Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on iTunes or Spotify. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
All the things you are.
Neon Jazz.